Warning, F-bombs are armed and may be dropped. Okay, you're going to notice that this is a live stream. No, it's not. It was recorded in private mode. It was broadcast in private mode. I saw this and I just kind of lost my mind a little bit. Fortune magazine, Brad S. Karp and H. Christopher Poning on Thursday. The gun industry's deadly lie. Okay. Let's just get to the important paragraph. For decades, the gun industry, in its eagerness to increase sales, has systemically and cynically exploited Americans' fear and anxiety by representing that owning a gun makes you safer. The claim is demonstrably false, and gun manufacturers know it. Allowing it to persist just adds to the ever-increasing body count. Owning a gun makes you less safe. Study after study proves that you are lying. That's it. You're lying. All right. These studies that they claim, what they do is they take everything and throw it in there. But it gets worse. All right. They take all criminal, justifiable, excusable, which is a legal term that means court ordered. An excusable homicide is a court ordered homicide and execution. All right. Accidental suicide and other. They put them all into this big pot. And then they can front load it a little bit more, they've discovered, by including all of the guns that are involved. Check this out. Man goes to mug a woman, an elderly woman. She pulls her gun out of her purse and shoots him and kills him. Okay, that's one, right? This is one shooting. A neighbor hears the gunshot and calls the cops. Cops show up. They have their guns out. Still one shooting, right? No, it's now 3 shootings. 2 cops showed up, plus there's the victim. That makes it 3 shootings on these statistical models. All of this for a justifiable shooting. Should not have been included. They also include suicides. Now, this puts me at odds with certain parts of the community that I'm actually rather fond of. But no, suicide should never be included as part of these statistics. That's the truth. Half of all suicides are listed as accidental drug overdoses. By the way, half of all accidental drug overdoses are suicides. The other half are actually legitimately accidental. You thought you were taking a hit of crack, and well, maybe there was a little more fentanyl in that crack than you knew was in there. That does happen. Half of them are suicides. I'm done. I'm going out the way I chose. Now, I know that certain people are saying, no, those are listed as poisoning or other chemical. No, they're not. One of my neighbors growing up committed suicide by drug overdose. This was the mid 80s, so it wasn't crack, it's probably heroin. He chose the way he went out. His mother died, swearing that the dealer had murdered him. No, I'm sorry, that's not what happened. All right. And they should not be included. Then they include all of the justifiable homicides. Guy mugs an old woman for her purse. Oh, it's just property. No. Muggings don't happen like that. They hit you. That's the first thing they do. That by itself, if you're sufficiently elderly, like Papa Carey, that can be a very serious injury or death. It's as simple as that. Then they add all of the guns involved, which can multiply it many times, and they add all of the victims. A case like Columbine really racked those points up, didn't it? If you go back and you actually look at them as, first of all, strictly homicides and strictly events, that 1/3 number comes way, way down. But if you count them as victims, that 1/3 number, which is about uh, 11,000 per year, that's the number. If they were only counting that, those studies would say the exact opposite, because the other 22 were all accidents, justifiable, suicides. Actually, no, the 22 is just the suicides. We're now down to the 11,000, of which at least half were accidental, justifiable, excusable, etc. All right. Oh, wow. Half of 11,000 is only around 5,500. The numbers actually would keep getting worse from there, but we're going to move on past that for a moment. They're going to try and say, well, there's the times when the criminal took the gun from the victim. You know what? Those do happen. That's a statistical anomaly. They're going to talk about how many times a gun was involved in a domestic violence case. Okay, well, yeah, about that. That's the cases where the old lady analogy comes in, right? He came there with the intention of beating his wife to death, and she shot and killed him. And they're counting that as part of the study. Oh, your dirty laundry's out. I'm not done yet. All right. Now, this next one, I don't have to be a genius to know where this is going to go, but you're actually going to read it as I do. WGPH-TV, Greensboro. It doesn't say what state. Did the assault weapons ban of 1994 bring down mass shootings? Here's what the data tells us. Okay. From that title, where do you think this is going? Michael J. Klein, clinical assistant professor of surgery, New York University. Wow. It's a complete mystery to me where this is going. Oh, the conversation. I absolutely can't tell you where this is going at all. A spate of high-profile mass shootings in the U.S. has sparked calls for Congress to look at imposing a ban on so-called assault weapons, covering the types of weapons used in both the recent Buffalo grocery attack and that on an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Such a prohibition has been in place before. The ban was limited. It covered only certain categories of semi-automatic weapons, such as AR-15s, and applied to a ban on sales only after the act was signed into law, allowing people to keep hold. And that it allowed the ban to. It also had a so-called sunset provision that allowed the ban to expire in 2004. That's true. Nevertheless, the 10-year lifespan of that ban, with a clear beginning and end date, gives researchers the opportunity to compare what happened with mass shootings before, during, and after the prohibition was in place. All right. Um, whoa, I caught a lie. In 2019, we published a population based study analyzing the data in a bid to evaluate the effect that the federal ban on assault weapons had on mass shootings, defined by the FBI as a shooting with 4 or more fatalities. That's true, not including the shooter. That is a lie. Here's what the data shows. All right, so here's a pretty graph. This, I guess, is 1985 right here, and 2015, 16, 17, probably. And hey, look, it's actually a pretty steady rise despite everything else. If this is 2000, then this is 1999. That would be correlating to Columbine. And it's really not a significant change between the two. And the rise here is, I mean, that is almost a perfect straight line. The study, this graph appears to end in 2017. When I went back and did some research on the efficacy of gun control in outside of the United States, the last year I could find complete data, sort of, for all of the affected places, so I can make a really fair comparison, was 2017. So I'm good with this. For the 1994 ban, the proportion of deaths in mass shootings in which whoa, right there, assault rifle has not been used in a mass shooting since uh I'm the Stockton shooting of 1983, I believe it was. So basically, they only gave themselves 2 years. But anyway, and they're going to try to weasel out. Well, we meant assault weapon. Well, no, you didn't. But anyway, yet in this earlier period, mass shootings were steadily rising. Indeed, high-profile mass shootings, such as the killing of 5 children in Stockton, California in 1989, 1983 San Francisco office attack, provided the impetus to push for a prohibition on some types of guns. The 94 through 2004 ban. In the years the ban went into effect, the number of deaths from mass shootings fell, and the increase in the annual number of incidents slowed down, even including 1999's Columbine. The 94 to 2004 period saw lower average annual rates of both mass shootings and deaths resulting from the incidents before the ban's inception. What that's not telling you, though, this only looks at the mass. It does not look at all victim stats. When you look at all murder victim stats, it went significantly up during that time frame. There's a lot of questions why. I'm not going to sit here and say that the ban itself caused it to go up like that. That may be true, that may not. It's as simple as that. We don't know. 2004 onward, the ban shows an almost immediate and steep rise in mass shootings in the years after the ban expired. That's bullshit. Let's go back to their own graph. Hey, look at that. That is, I mean, that is Okay, I can't even begin to do that justice. I would have to go back and do that in paint to see how close a straight line that is. But I mean, look at that. Well, let's take a 2005, 6, 7 versus 84. Why does this start? Why do they say it starts in 81, but 81 there's nothing? 83 we just saw there, or 89. Oh, excuse me. 83 there, 89 there was something, but there's nothing for 89. Why is that? What kind of game are you playing here, guys? All right. So for 84, we're looking at what 21. 2007, we're looking at 40. What is that? 45, I guess. Oh, wow. More than twice. For 99, we're looking at let's be generous and say 38. Since we don't know what these 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 represents, we've got nothing to compare it to. This is an example of both truncation and, oh, excuse me, no, this is just, well, truncation and scale. They're hiding the scale, so we can't really fairly judge, but hey, look at that. The scary, scary red is really high. You're going to ignore these over here. I mean, look at this. This line here would be, I guess, 2009. It's higher than 85. It's equal to 91 at least. 2015 is really bad. 10, 11, 12, 13. 2013 is not very fucking good. It's, what is that, 18-ish? 2009, we're looking at least 13 there. All right. So all in all, I'd say after the ban, it's not either no change at all, or let's be frank here, much worse. 2005, 2015 is 10 years. So 11, 12. Out of 12 years after the ban, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years that are worse than the 15 years before the ban. And during the ban, it's actually worse than this, because I know that there was several more that happened during that time frame that apparently they're not paying attention to. So I'm not even sure what we're doing here, except repeating some pretty bad lies. For our study, we chose only to include mass shooting incidents that were reported and agreed upon by all three of our selected data sources: Los Angeles Times, Stanford University, and oh my God, Mother Jones Magazine. Well, I guess that answers that. Mother Jones Magazine has been dishonest much longer than I've been alive. They came out in the 60s, I believe. I was born in 76, so holy shit. All right. This was ridiculous. You're telling fucking lies. You're pumping lies like it's formaldehyde. I don't know what else to tell you, people. The media has been lying to you. And these are just the two stories that appeared on my initial startup feed. Like I couldn't not see these. All right. On a related note. Now this one I did read, not fully. I'm sure it's coming through correctly. Excellent. This one is particularly chilling. Really, guys, you're gonna play this game. Elusive plane puzzled European air defenses, then its crew vanished. All right, assuming that this is the correct plane, it's a twin engine commuter plane. Oh, say about 2 or 3 tons gross cargo capacity. An unidentified aircraft flew through airspace belonging to multiple countries, almost all of them NATO members, without any official dispatch or proved flight plans. The illegal journey, which began in Lithuania, was monitored closely by all nations involved without any communications from the pilot. The plane was eventually found in Bulgaria, covered in canvas without any trace of its crew. The plane is reported to have initially departed from an undisclosed airport in Lithuania and then proceeded to fly over Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Serbia, and Romania before entering Bulgaria through the northern city of Vidin. With the exception of Serbia, all of the nations are part of the NATO alliance. Yeah. The plane reportedly finally landed at a small abandoned Bulgarian airfield known as Targovishte Airport near the village of Buvasti between Targovishte and Shumen. The airport is purported to have not accepted a plane for many years, and locals have begun utilizing it in the summer months for agricultural purposes. European news source Euractiv states that when the plane was discovered, its engine was still warm. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So, this plane made it through 5 countries at least. Nobody could find him. Well, nobody could stop him. Nobody was sure who this was. We're looking at, let's lowball it and say 2 tons of cargo. Well, that cargo could have been anything. 2 tons is about 4,000 pounds. An adult male battle kit ready, let's say 250, right? So that's 8 men. Or it could have been 2 tons of high explosive. It could have been 2 tons of narcotics. It could have been 2 tons of mixed cargoes. And nobody could stop this guy. It's not like those air traffic controllers aren't talking to each other. Hey, we've got a plane up here. No identification. We don't know who this is. As far as I can tell, they still haven't identified who it was. And it wouldn't matter one whit if they had completed their objectives, with those objectives being something I don't really want to talk about. But you can be rest assured it would have been extremely destructive. Yeah, you're starting to catch on, I hope. Nobody knows where it took off from. And the only way they discovered it was on the ground and people found it and said, "What the hell is this doing here?" It's easy to build a plane, right? No, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's relatively easy. It's disconcertingly easy to obtain a plane from a plane junkyard, basically. They're called boneyards, but basically they're plane junkyards. Rebuild it under a pretext of selling it, and there you go. Especially if all you're really taking is the airframe and the skin, and then using it for whatever purpose you intend. Drug smugglers across the US Mexican border do it all the damn time. Drug smugglers across the US Canadian border do it all the damn time. They literally will buy a junked out plane, rebuild it, fly it across once, and take enough product with them to justify all of the costs and land it at some abandoned airfield. My second unit, the small boat station, was actually a former Air Force, Army Air Corps uh, airdrome, I believe is what they called it, from World War One and early World War Two. Planes would just take off from there on patrol or on an intercept mission, and then usually return back there if they could. It was also an alternate landing field throughout World War II into, I think it was 1950s when 60s, excuse me, when it finally shut down and was handed over to the Coast Guard, who didn't need the entire airfield, just the buildings at one end. Now, that was an Army air base. Yeah, okay. But there's thousands of places where planes can be landed and potentially turned back around if circumstances allow. And if not, you burn it in place. Or maybe it will burn in place anyway. If you think the war on terror ended with us pulling out of Afghanistan, you are deadly mistaken. Keep calm and mandatory carry on.